The Witchcraft Act was repealed in '51, and since then people came bobbing out from under every stone, and we found that people were getting extremely interested but had nothing to pin.
Ruth is the high priestess of a coven, which meets at her home in the country. She was brought up as a Christian, but was also taught much about the beliefs and mythologies of the pre-Christian period.
When I was a little girl, my father used to tell me that our family was meant to be descended from a crow and a fairy lady. And the crow, actually, of course, is the god Bran, and the fairy lady, his sister, Bran or Branwen. And he also told me the legend about how they met and how all our family had the crow as a totem, and it appears in the coat of arms and so on. To us, magic is not something ununderstandable. And I think that one day the laws of magic will be understood. They're becoming more and more understood. There's magic in the seasons, in being in love, in anything beautiful you see, in friendship, in all sorts of things. That's natural magic. People are now beginning to understand things like ESP, transference of thought, and healing. Now, all these things can be called magic. And as you grow, you find you're so much in it that you don't think of it as a second thing or something separate from your beliefs and your life. We always did keep the festivals, just as people do now. They hold May festivals. And then we found that people were beginning to get very attracted towards witchcraft. But we found that they'd got something that was just a bit wrong. So we decided that we would let our thing be known and sort of hand it out to other people. So we then began to firm the rituals, make them more definite.
Who stands as sponsor for this man?
We sponsored him, knowing him to be worthy.
You know that you are answerable to the house for him, and you will help him, answer his questions, and make him one with us?
We know this and will do it.
Do you all assembled here agree that he be adopted and accepted into
If found suitable, new members of the coven go through a ritual of initiation.
His child, and a child of the Lady of the Bright and Turning Tower?
That is our wish.
Then let him be born.
Some groups work naked because they really feel that they're quite different when they're completely without anything that reminds them of everyday life. They cast off their clothes and they are part of nature, with nature, and worshipping the gods and goddess through nature. And they really feel that they're much closer in that way. But we haven't, because we work as much as possible out of doors, and it's either too cold or too flyy. And also I do think it can lead to a certain degree of embarrassment.
Our Lady the Moon waxes and wanes 9 times, while your spirit is renewed, while your body grows.
My son, I acknowledge you as a true-born child of the House of Bran. From the gods to you, strength and newness of life have flown. But now you must live separated, but strong, filled with the blood of the Spirit. I breathe into you breath of life. The reason that people get Satanism mixed up with the old religion is because very early on, as I say, the church, at least in this country, and to a great extent on the continent, took absolutely no notice of the survivals. The Roman Church very sensibly told them to adapt the old gods to become saints and to use the same places of worship, and they did to a great extent. They went along very well. Well, the church became more and more rich and unfortunately more and more corrupt. They also had this curious idea that everybody in the church must be celibate. So you had a hotbed of either people who were being celibate and were seething with misery and repressions, or people who were not and were therefore of a bad conscience. And the people began, after a while, to be irked by these people with so much money and so much in the way of possessions, when the peasantry and the majority were in a dreadful state of poverty and sickness and one thing and another. And there became murmurings against the church. Now the church became insecure and frightened, and they had, therefore, to build up some sort of whipping boy, and therefore all the minorities suffered. One of the things people ask you as soon as they hear that you do anything like this is to heal, to help people who are ill. And one of the biggest pieces of work we do is this. Most of the people for whom we work have no idea they're being worked for. People will say, I have a friend who's terribly ill. They say it's a terminal cancer, whatever it may be. Please, will your group work? We do. And the person doesn't know, because they'd be shocked to think that what they would call witches were working for them. We don't call ourselves that or think of ourselves as that, but they would. And so it's not a case of people believing they're being worked for. We work without them knowing. And it works, but it isn't us. You're not doing it. Something is working through you. It comes through almost like an electric current. You don't try to point it off at the person who's ill. You may not know exactly where they are. That which sends it through you knows where to send it. The festivals are tied to the natural year. The beginning of the year is Halloween, which is the beginning of November. And that is when my group, as my family, shall I say, though they're not as a group, had the Great Assembly. All the clans held their Great Assembly. And it is because they called on also the souls of those who were dead, who had been, that has grown into Halloween, when they imagined souls wandering around, ghosts about the place, witches, etc. And that was the great festival of the year, when all the business of the house, the family, was done. And it was also, of course, a religious festival. Bendigite Bran, blessed Bran, my Lord and brother, our Lord and Father, not in my present form, but as Gwen Bran I call on you, not for myself alone, but for your people, your children, your family, your house, the Plant Bran, the children of Bran. Today being the great assembly of the house at the beginning of the year, all have been called of our people, those who were, those who are, those who will be. Ours by birth, ours by adoption, ours by brother right.
Prince and Father of our house, make it possible for all to come. Great bridge of imperishable alder, bridge for them the waters of birth, span for them the river of death.
One of the chief beliefs in the old faith, and in a great many modern ones, is that of reincarnation. That we come from God. We are all a part of God. I say God now, not the goddess, because I mean the one that is above any god or goddess. Now, we come to this world carrying our little soul for each time, and we learn as going to a class in school, and we return to learn more and to learn more, until we've reached a point when we no longer need to be forced to return or to come back because we wish to improve. And then you can choose. Will you come back and go on helping people?
Blessed head, great crimson face of the sun, light their way. as they journey to our great assembly.
Now the spiral castle turns. May time cease for us as for them, and we may touch and know each other across the long years and the great spaces. Now we throw open the 4 great portals of the spinning tower. Time stops.